Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 105. I think it's 105, Rogue. I might be wrong because we discussed this before we came on air. What do you think it
I
is?
think it's 105, but the
Right,
producer thinks it's 104. Now,
right.
I'm terrible at maths, let's face it, so I could
Yeah.
be completely wrong, but we'll just go with what I say, yeah?
Well, we're here anyway, folks. So thank you for watching. To all our subscribers, members, thank you so much for following the channel. We really do appreciate your time tuning in tonight, especially tonight as well. We know the football's on, everyone's going football crazy, Wimbledon and everything else. First of all, congratulations to England winning last night. Well, say last night, it was early, it was the morning. I fell asleep around about 3 a.m. trying to watch it, so I had to rewatch it again this morning. So to all of you that managed to stay up, because it was a 2 a.m. kickoff, man, that takes some real commitment. And I'm a Welshman, right? And I supported England last night. I want you to know. So I just want to say congratulations to the England team. Absolutely fantastic game that was. But tonight, we're really excited, Rogue, aren't we?
Absolutely. Why are we excited?
Because we have the leader of UKIP for the first time on the Richie and Rogue show Unfiltered. We've had many guests on the show before, but really excited about tonight's guest for a whole number of reasons, because he's not just the leader of a political party, but he has personal convictions and a faith that resonates with us certainly here on the show. So really excited about having him on, and we're going to get to know a little bit more about the man tonight himself, and of course the party as well, and so many other questions that some of you can ask as well. Don't forget to share your questions in the comments. If you've got anything you want to ask Nick tonight, Nick Tenconi, then please post them there, and we'll do our best to post them to him as well. This week, how's your week been, Rogue, anyway, before we get into it?
So it's been an interesting week, lots of things going on, but you know what? I'm grateful to be alive. So I just
Amen to that.
literally stand every day and wake up and thank God for life. So every moment that I have breath, I will do the right thing. What about you, Richie?
Absolutely. An attitude of gratitude lifts your altitude. That's what my old pastor used to say. But anyway, yeah, it's a long time ago. Absolutely. But it's wonderful to have our guest on tonight. It is, of course, the leader of UKIP. It is Nick Tenconi.
Hello, Nick.
Hi guys.
Hello, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Nice to see you both. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a
Absolute pleasure.
Do you know, Richie was just like, we need him on, we need him on. And I was like, absolutely. So I'm glad you're here. We've made it happen. So let's hope that this goes well and we'll do it again.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah. Just on that note, let's just get into that. Who is Nick Tenconi? Nick, you know, we've seen you on social media. You're quite prolific. You're at all the protests. In fact, I think out of any party leader, I think you've been to more protests than any party leader that I know, right? And I know quite a few, and you have been, you know, out there, you know, across the UK. But you've also carried this real sense of, because some politicians will use the Christian culture thing as a political football to say, you know, we need to restore Christianity in this country, but they're not genuine Christians. You're different to them. I'm going to let you have the floor, but just tell myself and Rogue a little bit about who is Nick Tenconi. The surname as well. I mean, it's not English, is it? I mean, it sounds Italian to me. So let our viewers know, who is Nick Tenconi?
Wow, I like all questions bar that one. I'm joking. That's a great question. So let's do it. So in terms of my heritage, you can tell that my surname has a vowel at the end of it. My father's side, obviously, so it's Italian. My father's people are from Lake Como, which is about 30 kilometers north of Milan. I've never really done the math. I'm guessing that I'm third or fourth generation. Usual stuff with as generations elapse, you don't necessarily learn the language. It all depends on how early your grandparents die, and there's a whole host of other reasons with regards to preserving traditions, culture, and things like passing on language. I grew up in a very Italian, I would say, very Italian and equally as English household. Are the values, the culture and the values stem from Christianity. We can talk about culture, but it was really from Christianity, the ethics, morals, that kind of thing, forgiveness, sacrifice, duty. These aren't cultural norms and values. They're Christian norms and values. And then we associate that with our culture as well. So on my mother's side, it's fully Irish. So my mother's family is the McCarthy family from Southern Ireland, a place called Waterford. And again, in terms of my age and whether you're lucky enough to meet your great grandparents and all that kind of stuff, kids aren't in control of what gets passed down. But so it's Irish on my mother's side and Italian on my father's side. And then at some point in the last 100 years, again, I've never really done the math. Guess what? My father's family fled Italy, probably to do with fascism, and my mother's family fled Ireland because everyone wants to live in England. So at some point, the Catholic Italian side has come to Britain, and my mother's Irish family, they've come here as well. And then that's where the Anglo-Saxon or the whatever you want to call it, whatever the kids are calling it these days, the English blood was introduced to mine and my brothers and my cousins, obviously my existence. So it's as much English as it is Irish, and it's as much Irish as it is Italian, and like a third, I suppose. I think so anyway. So yeah, that's the heritage, that's the background.
Yeah, a wealth of culture there. Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious. So you were born in Eastbourne, is that right? East Sussex.
That's right. Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah.
Are you still there?
I've got a brother. No, I'm not still there. I've got an older brother, so we were born there and went to school there, and a fabulous little place. And like so many places, especially our seaside towns, they once were this. If you go back to the 50s and the 60s, it was a hangout for the celebrities. Everyone knows the famous stories about the Cray twins going down there with Barbara Windsor and all that sort of. People couldn't afford to go on holiday, travel by water, for example, by air. So they holidayed in these great, fantastic seaside towns. So I didn't actually, like my associates, we didn't actually know what we had. And when I go back there now, it absolutely breaks my heart because it's fully colonized. And these are seaside towns as well. There's something different about, I'd say, English countryside and seaside towns. Whereas when it happens in a place like London, Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham, it's equally as unacceptable. But it's metropolitan, big city stuff. So Eastbourne's where we're from. And then I spent a lot of time moving around. I had to go to university. My age group went to university. We were part of that millennial brigade that went to uni. So I was at Southampton for 3 or 4 years, and then on my mother's side, it's all military. So we have a lot of family. We're based in the south basically, and I randomly ended up in Reading. A lot of people know that. That's information I'm happy to disclose. I ended up in Reading to start my own business, which was going to be in health and fitness and coaching and mentoring and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people use the term personal trainer. Turns out that a personal trainer, this was a long time ago now, but if you're going to become a personal trainer in the modern era, you are a dietitian, you are your best friend, you are a doctor, you are someone who diagnoses an awful lot of different mental illnesses, obviously not registered, but you are that person who's addressing the theme of addiction just constantly, and all these broken, wounded souls, and everybody wants some sort of quick fix, and you, the trainer, are there to issue discipline and to teach them that discipline and duty and actually turning back to God. Good luck trying to convince an atheist population of that. But all of that training, I randomly found myself in a place like Reading doing that for just over 10 years. It would ultimately lead to good things with Turning Point, which I'm happy to talk to you guys about. Again, that leadership kind of role where it's all about winning hearts and minds. So yeah.
Yeah, Nick, if I can ask quickly on that, do you think your childhood, being brought up in a Christian environment, has shaped your political thinking? Because obviously you're really engaged in politics. Because one of the things that myself and Rogue, the reason why we put this podcast together is because we believe in bringing the spiritual and the political together and trying to merge the two, which is a huge challenge, as you know. But do you think that your upbringing kind of has made you the person you are today in the sense of your political views when it comes to whether it's policies or UKIP itself, its messaging? Do you believe that's the case, or was that there with UKIP before you became the leader?
So I'm what I refer to as a blue-blooded conservative. So it's a hybrid response. So I've always been incredibly fascinated very, very much interested with regards to strength and power and philosophy and why the natural order of things, why things are the way they are. That's not unique to me. Lots of kids are like that, but I was certainly more like that. So dogmatic rather than happy-go-lucky, shall we say, if that makes sense. And my father was a fantastic teacher. I would have so many questions. I don't know how old I was, maybe 8, 9, 10. The fall of the Berlin Wall, 89, Thatcher, 90. This was all on the screens, and my dad was always watching politics. He was always watching the news, Question Time, Newsnight, Jeremy Paxman, Andrew Neil. I'm going back to there are others, and prominent figures within blue, red, and yellow. By the way, all the different camps. And we had this program when we were younger called Spitting Image, which you guys will remember.
Hilarious.
And this was millennials are the last lucky group. We really are. I really feel for our Z and our alphas, because we had the old world and we got the new world, and we crossed over in our 20s and 30s. It's not like the boomers that got the digital new world in their 40s and 50s. We had both the old world, the cartoons on Saturday morning, things like Spitting Image, and it promoted such debate within the house and these talking points as well. And in terms of my father's empire and my father's income and the house that we were raised in, the school that we went to, the hybrid response is that I feel I was born a blue-blooded conservative. But if you look at my environment and how we grew up, we were conservative in every sense of the word. But I didn't know the difference between small c conservative and the big capital C Conservative Party. My father was a member of the Conservative Club in Eastbourne, which had the old fashioned snooker hall, and the guy behind the bar with the waistcoat and the bow tie, and a pint of lager was £1.80. And there's me, 16, 17 years old, and I'm just listening to everything my father's saying. I always had questions, and I was like a sponge trying to understand what this means. Why do we have war? Do heaven and hell exist, etc.? What's, who is God, and what's my role in all of this? And then eventually, when it came to deciding on a university, it was very obvious to choose PPE or politics, philosophy, and international relations, that kind of thing. And thanks be to God, Southampton was top 20 on the little Times list thing that I'm sure they still do it, but it's top 20, very good for that particular subject. But just before then, guys, I'd met with my local Conservative MP, a guy called Nigel Waterstone, I want to say. And Eastbourne had been Conservative for however, like so many constituencies until recently, it had been Conservative for so very long. And I met with him, and I tell all the podcasters there, especially people that are kind enough, like you've said, to a bit about my biography. So I'll tell you as well. I sat with him, and he said Tony Blair was in charge, and he said, go and make your money. Don't go into politics. There's no money in politics. And that was kind of it. And I remember thinking, I'm young, ambitious, aggressive, not in a bad way, and you've just told me to go and make money. Well, hang on a minute. What are you doing? Why would you waste that opportunity? What are the routes into politics, and why is it reserved for the upper class, or I don't know what you want to call them, the Harrow and Eton Winchester Brigade, for example? Why is it reserved for these people? Why can't the average person get involved in this? So that was interesting. And then obviously after university, it was all private sector and commerciality and fact finding, and that bit's very boring. But yeah, to go back to the specifics of the household, I can say it best by saying this: I would often find myself acting very courageously and brave, and my dad always fostered that, and he chose a management strategy as a father to ensure that he taught me to always face my demons. That was just something. He could have had 5 children. He could have had 3. He had 2 kids, it turns out, me and my brother, thanks be to God. And he focused on that with me because he saw that in me. And he said, no matter what happens, never be a coward. Always make sure you're facing your demons.
Do you know, that's really beautiful. And actually, I think what is so important in our younger years is having that father that actually reveals the Father heart. And when you look at God and the Father heart and you understand, you know, love and what love really means, you then know how to behave in a way. And do you know what I love, like, is your inquisitiveness. You know, you're there trying to, and I actually was thinking in my head before you said it, oh, he's like a sponge. He's just literally lapping it up and wanting to know everything, you know, and I think that is so good to have that kind of mind. And I think that's actually helped you, you know, along your way. And I just kind of want to know, I mean, because I'm really about the spiritual, you know, so politically, you know, I know some stuff. I don't know everything, you know, but I really understand God's love and I understand what's really important. And that is that there is a fight that we are fighting. There is a darkness that we are fighting. And we have to do something on a spiritual level, a spiritual warfare, to ensure that that shift takes place within the governmental helm. You know, we need to do something. So I'm looking at you just thinking, I want to like ask lots and lots of things in regard to how you were raised as a Christian, you know, and how does that help you every day? And then when you see the political realm and how dark it is, how do you maintain joy in that?
So I want to address the first topic. Do the first thing first, and then on to the joy thing, because the joy thing's much easier to answer. So I had a very special upbringing, but so does everyone, right? Good always comes out of even the most horrific upbringings. Ideally, good comes out of bad. I know it doesn't sometimes, but it's not like I'm special. I had a very blessed upbringing, but what I did have, I must reinforce with my father, is that he saw something in me. It's very difficult for me to explain this because I don't know, and I'm not him either, but he saw something in me. And in terms of the Christian upbringing, my parents are boomers, and the boomers raised the millennials pretty much across the board, with a few exceptions, with the you find your own way. And you have your pushy parents, and then you have your find your own way parents. And I don't know which one's right, you know, because I was left to my own devices to fact find. But as you rightly know, I was a self-cleaning oven, thanks be to God. And I think that's great when you've got kids that are like that, because kids aren't like that sometimes. They're really not. And I think my parents saw that. And very traditional household. My father, very masculine. My mother obviously liked that, respected that. My father was head of the household. He's a good man. He provided for his family. He worked really hard, too hard, it turns out. But then hopefully I can rectify that moving forward in my own life. So the Christian teachings and values, they weren't there by him taking me to mass. To be absolutely clear about that. But it was there in the context of getting me baptized. It was there in the context of the 10 commandments, the 7 sacraments, and the 7 deadly sins. For your audience who are curious about the faith, there is this thing called, as you both will know, I appreciate you both, from what I can gather, Christians, there is a spiritual almanac. So you learn about the precepts of the church. You learn about the fruits of the Holy Spirit. You learn about the 7 deadly sins. You learn about the importance of humility when you learn about Marian dogma and how Our Lady gave herself to God without knowing anything, without any reassurances whatsoever, humility being the opposite of pride. This would come up constantly within my home and at the Christian school that I went to, reinforced by the teachers and a fantastic headmaster, I'll add as well, and my dad. So I'd say the commandments, the sacraments, and the spiritual almanac. Not wishing to avoid the question, but I wasn't taken to Sunday school. My parents didn't have me confirmed, and there was an awful lot of choice, guys. There was an awful lot of choice. But again, I have to point out the self-cleaning oven thing. I wanted to know philosophy. I wanted to know who Descartes was, who's this guy called Freud. I wanted to know more about the devil. I wanted to know how does the devil attack us? I wanted to know about the angels and the saints. I wanted to know about demons. I wanted to know more about the cross. And all these things I'm sure we're going to come on to speak about, but I can't explain that. Not wishing to avoid the question, I can't explain that. I just always felt that I had to be brave for reasons that I can't comprehend or can't explain. But on the rugby field, playing football, if someone picked on my brother, if someone threatened my family, I saw these things as well. You know, Sometimes my dad might get into a bit of an altercation. I'm not going to go into it live, but there, my dad was a man. My dad was a man's man, and every now and then, he was a business owner. He was successful, and threats do come to your door. And I'd watch him and match and mirror his behavior. He was always kind. He was never ruthless, but he was incredibly firm. And if he had to be, he was dangerous. And that was very inspiring to me. But not to forget about that second point about joy. And I want to thank you for bringing that up, because that's a really kind question. I do see the world for what it is. I think the Patriots will give me that much. I do see the world for what it is. And I know how this ends for me. I know how this ends for us, for Britain, for the West, but for Britain, for me and for Britain, it's a one-way ticket, unless we can reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government. So there are things that I wouldn't say politically, where I would hold back, like now, that I did say on Sunday, yesterday, when I left Mass. They're very kind there. They like to talk to me and ask me questions, and it's nice to be recognized. And the gentleman said, we're not going to get our country back until we end abortion, are we? And we always have good conversations. And I said to him, because it's after Mass and we're at church, I can tell you now, yes, that is correct. As long as Britain exists in the state that it's in, we're not going to get our country back. But I would never say that if I was giving a political speech, because Britain is where it's at in terms of secular life, secular culture, liberalism, and yes, abomination, and yes, degeneracy. And that doesn't make me superior. I am a repentant, unworthy sinner, a vile wretch saved by God's grace alone. Very true. But we have fallen into such a state, to be brief, that until we reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government, we're going to continue, guys, on this never-ending path of certain people rising, becoming very popular, pandering to liberalism, pandering to secularism, more and more migrants, more and more replacement, more and more abortion, more and more euthanasia, more and more infanticide. All of these things, they're not going to stop unless we reinstate Christ back into Parliament.
Absolutely. And on that note, I was just, as you were speaking there, it reminded me of my father. My father wasn't a Christian at all, but he did tell me two things. Two pieces of advice: never get involved with God, religion, or politics. Suffice to say, I didn't listen to a word he said, and I find myself in a similar position. So my question to Nick is, following from that, really, is how did you get involved in politics itself? Because, of course, you've talked about the masculinity of your father, the kind of the way you were brought up in a Christian environment with morals and ethics and all the important values that I think that make our country great. When our country was a Christian country, not just culturally, but believed in God, there was a real sense that, we were a great nation. We've lost that with secularism, with a whole bunch and a whole range of things. And I'm sure we'll come to it later. The Islamification of our country, which is the greatest threat, in my opinion, ever. You can forget all the other stuff. It is it's just beyond the pale how dangerous it is right now, and politicians are pandering to those kinds of people that come here with an ideology and a civilization that's completely alien to ours. How did you go from being Nick Tenconi to this guy from Southampton, went to university? How did you get involved in politics? When did you get bitten by that political bug, as they call it?
So I will timeline it, because it is a longer answer, and so I will timeline it from my childhood, my meeting with the Conservative MP Nigel Waterstone. I always hope I get that name right, because I don't know. It was a long time ago. I was 17 years old. University, 19 to 22 ish. Then 22 to 29. So the good chunk of my 20s, corporate in the West End, in the city, all of that good stuff. Sales. Fantastic. Talk about earning your stripes. That's the good stuff. But I hated it. And the managers and the directors of these firms, they knew I wasn't manageable either. And I felt really bad for them, because I can't be managed, if that makes sense. I've come a long way along that journey, but it wasn't their fault. So none of this worked for me. So I thought, well, you have to start your own business. And what I enjoyed doing was health and fitness. and combat. So I thought, well, let's turn that into something, which I did, and it was successful and it was fantastic. That was in 2013, pretty much as I was turning 30 years old. That's that done. I then did that from 2013 to lockdown, March 20th, Friday, 8 p.m. Boris Johnson took to the lectern. I was in a room full of people, and he gave that speech, and everyone left. Everyone went home. Their parents called them. Everyone went home. It doesn't matter who was there. Everyone went home. Get home now. It was that kind of thing. And I thought, I've never been raised to be a sheep. I was not raised to be a sheep. I am not a sheep. You have wolves, you have sheep, you have sheepdogs. I'm not a sheep. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need sheep as well, but that's not me. And I knew that this was different. When you're working in the gyms in 2019, when you got to September of 2019, guys, they started wearing masks. They started putting stickers on the floor, and they started to change the opening times, and clients would bring you up going, yeah, actually, I've spoken to the wife, we're thinking it's probably best that I just, give it a break for a while. And your revenue starts tanking, and you're like, hang on a minute, I know enough about politics and international relations and words like globalization, Marxism, communism, socialism, traditionalism, etc., etc. But I'd been in the corporate world. I'd left all that behind me, right? Early 20s-ish. So here we are, 2020, and the gyms are closing. And I'm looking at all this, and all of my training and my knowledge is coming back from where I left off in my early 20s. So I'm about 35 in 6 years ago, right? So March 20, whatever, about 30, 36. Anyway, as you know, lockdown 1, the gym's shut.
Yep.
The government told me, a 36-year-old male, that I couldn't go to work, that I couldn't earn, and that I was entitled to nothing. That's basically what happened. And at the time, there were these reports about these self-employed men and women committing suicide because there were two sections of society, guys. This section had 4 bedrooms and a detached house, and little Sophia had her room, and little Johnny had his room, and mum and dad were baking cakes, and dad was working from home, and everyone had cash on the hip, and everyone was having a bit of a nice time. Then you had the council estates with the multiple children all living on top of each other. And I used to think, how are they surviving? How are they getting through this? Because dad goes out to work, mum does whatever, and then they come back. But now they're all on top of each other, but they don't live in a mansion. They don't have a swimming pool. They don't have these things. So how are they surviving? And then I realized that the churches were closed. The churches were ordered to close. And then I realized that in Tesco's, I was being told to walk a certain way. Then I was told in the pub, these horrible, despicable gastropubs that I despise, with this overrated, overpriced food. They charge the same as silver service almost, only the next table's a foot from me, and there's no white linen tablecloth on it. I can't. I want a tavern. I want to have a beer in a pub, like how it used to be. When we take power, we'll sort that out. They told me, no, you can't come in and have a drink because you haven't booked. So all these things happened in 2020. You know it, I know it, right?
Yep.
In 2020. I learned what a graphic was and a meme. I know I'm a real late developer, and I found out that the thing that was being pushed to my algorithm, there I said it. I found out the thing that was being pushed to my algorithm was Turning Point UK's graphics. And I learned all about memes and graphics. And I learned about someone called Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk and Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, and even Piers Morgan was getting quoted, and about Catherine Burblesing and Nigel Farage and all these other names, some of which I'd heard about, obviously, and some of which I hadn't. I would like to throw in a note here, guys. I did vote in Brexit. So I say I had a break between mid-20s and mid-30s, that 10-year period. That's not entirely true. But anyway, so I found out about Turning Point UK. So I thought, right, the government's done me over in so many different ways, but good always comes out of bad. Suffering is grace, so whatever. Let's get on with it. And I contacted Turning Point UK. I found out that the guy running it is our fantastic Chief Executive Officer, Jack Ross. Jack agreed to meet with me, which we did. He was based in down south, very much my neck of the woods. And we met and had a few drinks. We chatted, and then a month later we chatted, and then etc. etc. So we arrive at autumn of 2021, where I am given the title of Chief Operating Officer for Turning Point UK. And again, guys, just to put a bow around that, we're talking about the UK version of what Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, founded. And I hadn't even heard of Charlie Kirk, guys. Where was I? What was I doing? What world had I been living in between
learning about
mid-20s?
memes?
what was going on, guys? You know, so I just want to tell your viewers this: 2020 was the year that changed everything. Let's face it. Good always comes out of bad. I'm not going to knock it, but we all got done over, right? The people that got badly affected. I was sitting in a pub in Henley, where I was spending a lot of time in Henley. I've always spent a lot of time in Henley. No reason why, by the way, just I have. And I was sat there, and we were all out of lockdown, end of lockdown 1. We were all sat there Saturday afternoon. I'd been for a nice lunch, doesn't matter with who. And the table turned violent against me. I said something. It's not relevant what I said. I'd said something, but it was a joke. And it wasn't anything inflammatory or racist. Again, for brevity, the whole table turned on me. And the women became violent. And one of them picked my pint up and threw it in the flower bed. And they started talking about cultural appropriation. And they started to talk about colonization. And my university studies and my father's conversations and watching Question Time from the 90s, everything just came flooding back to me about, whoa, are these guys Marxists? Like, are commies now at street level? You know? Anyway, it wasn't harrowing. But if you're a man and you've been attacked by a woman, you can't deploy. You can defend yourself, but you can't deploy the same way as if it was a male. And I remember thinking, yeah, this has got to change. This has. So many relationships of mine were ruined. Families turned their backs on me. My own family as well, in various parts of the world. Again, all water under the bridge now. But I didn't realize that I was surrounded by socialists, commies, Marxists, and these left-leaning liberals. I don't know where I'd been, guys. More for me, and that's why I got in touch with Turning Point. For all the above reasons, that's why I got in touch with Turning Point.
Wow. That's a long journey, isn't it? And it's an interesting journey. And then in 2024, May 2024, you were elected deputy for UKIP. And then I think it was assumed role interim leader in June 2024. And then you were actually, after the resignation after Lewis, 5th of Feb 2025, you became the party leader. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So
I've done my homework.
That's basically, you guys have absolutely smashed it. So ironically, everything before UKIP is the biography stuff and taking time over it and the sort of who is Nick Tenconi stuff. But everything after that, after April 24, it takes 2 seconds to explain. I became deputy, I became interim, I became permanent, and now here we are. And really looking forward to whatever questions you've got about that, guys. But that bizarrely, that doesn't take any explaining. It's the stuff before that takes a little bit of explaining.
But it's good to know. It's good to get to know you, figure out who you are, what drives you, and how you got to this position, you know. And I think it's always interesting for everybody to hear. So I just want to, is it okay, Richie, if I just kick off with one question?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. So, do you accept the far-right label attributed to your leadership? That's it. That's my question.
Sure. No, it's a great question. Do you mean the neo-Nazi stuff?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's everything that's been thrown at us, isn't it? You know, and
join the club. We've all been called Nazi.
The reason why I want to talk about this is because actually Richie and I were put in Nazi suits, and they made an actual profile of us, and basically they obviously hate migrants, and there's me in grey looking quite dashing actually, so I thank them for the colour coding, and now I look good in grey.
Wow. Yeah, you do think they made you look really great.
Thank you. Well, thank you. But then the lies come around, not yet, Jay. The lies come around from, you know, oh my gosh, that's actually not even, you know, doctored. That's actually them. And it's like, well, no, not really, you know, and we've done this as a bit of a stunt just to try and get, you know, some traction. No, we haven't. Somebody has actually gone all out to call us Nazis and to put us in Nazi suits. That is wholly inappropriate. So I feel your pain and I understand what's being said. So this is a little precursor as to say, we get it.
Yeah, sure. No, of course. So the liberal and the left wing insults or slurs are designed to put a target on your back. Now, within the liberal, socialist, Marxist, commie camp, you have psychopaths. You have psychopaths in the middle ground, over to the right, far right fascism, far left fascism, your ethno-nationalists. I suspect they probably exist within the conservative camps as well. Human beings, after all. We don't have too much evidence of that, but for balance. So they know, that there's someone in those camps, guys, that if you legitimize me as a target, so fascist, Nazi, that type of thing, then they can kill me, and then they're vindicated. So it's a very sick mindset. It's your audience will be edified in basic communist propaganda. It is very simple. Call them something despicable and unpalatable over and over and over again. No matter what happens, don't stop doing it. It's very basic. It's not the communist propaganda training. It's not very advanced at all. It's very basic, but they're very good at it. They're very ardent to it. They're very diligent to it, but it's not overly professional or academic. Just keep calling them a Nazi over and over again. Use words like racist, xenophobe. When the millennials were growing up in the 90s and the noughties, the word xenophobe was everywhere. It was absolutely everywhere, to do with Wales, England, Scotland. It wasn't to do with skin color. It was just a word that was a buzzword that was used. And xenophobia is a great word. Most nations can be very xenophobic. Some say xenophobic, some say cautious. But eventually, the communist plot realized that wasn't enough. So they turned their heads to the word racist. So I reject the labels that my enemies pin on me, which is racist, neo-Nazi. This is absolutely absurd. It's so morally wrong. I'm a blue-blooded conservative. I sit on the right of politics. It's absolute nonsense. But what I will say is this, and this is a trick not to miss for the show tonight, guys, for your audience. These people, liberals, socialists, Marxists, these people genuinely believe they're fighting against fascism. You do know that, right? They genuinely believe that we're the fash. They genuinely believe that we're fascists. Now, in order to paint somebody as the enemy in a fascistic light, there has to be an oppressor dynamic. And the oppressed dynamic, which is the bastardization of our history and our faith and what the kids have been taught and all the stuff that we need to overturn and deal with and confront, is that the oppressor is the capitalist. The oppressor is the white man. The oppressor is the Christian. The oppressor is the heteronormative couple or the straight male and female. That's what they've done. Only it hasn't. The oppressor is the person who rejects I don't know what the opposite of non-binary is. Not psychotic, whatever. The point is that their rhetoric has failed. Their rhetoric has failed, guys, massively. It's failed with gender identity. It's failed with calling migrants who are undocumented refugees, etc. It's gender identity is the biggest flop, obviously. So they can keep doing this, which is to call you this name over and over again, which is part of what they learn in their communist training. But the reality is that it's not sophisticated, it's not professional, it's not that intelligent, and it's not working. The vast majority of the British public aren't falling for it, but that doesn't excuse the fact that they are trying to legitimize us as targets to be killed, which is unacceptable.
Absolutely. It's the conditioning, isn't it? If you hear it over and over and over, you start to believe it. And so in that conditioning, when they see you, they affiliate that name with you, even though that's not what we are. And that's really quite hard when you're living it and you're being exposed to that kind of hatred for something that you're not. And it's just like social media is really good in one sense, but it's also, it's not so great on the other side.
Yeah, I think it's repugnant, really, that people would lower themselves to those kind of phrases and call people neo-Nazis, Nazis, fascists, whatever, when realistically all we are is concerned parents and citizens who love our country, our culture and our history, and believe in the good of our country. But the liberals, those pearl clutching, purple head, lunatics, seem to think that what they're doing, as you've said, Nick, in their own minds, they're convinced they're doing the right thing, and that is the problem. And what I find is when they can't win a debate, they turn to name calling. But over the last few years, that has become redundant because it doesn't affect us anymore. The race card, you're racist. People are like, so what? Get over it. We're not racist. It's almost as if that weapon doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're going to see a different approach. This is my kind of personal, it's almost prophetic in a sense. I think there's going to be a different line of attack. And I think what we're seeing in politics happening right now, yes, we've had identity politics. We know how that plays out. What we're seeing right now is this massive attempt, if you like, to divide those of us who are on the right. I don't like using right wing or left wing. I believe in what's right and what's wrong, right? But I do believe that what they're seeing is that we can't use these words anymore. They're not working. So let's do something else. Let's divide the right on these minutiae, these small aspects of policy, maybe on mass deportation. Who do we deport? How many do we deport? How do we deport them? And so we get in a fight on the right of how we do that. And the left then look at that and go, see, we've got them, boys. I mean, they throw enough mud and hopefully some of it will stick. Now, UKIP has been in existence for a very long time. We know the history. I'm not going to go into that. It's not a history lesson tonight. But for you as the leader currently now, as I've said at the start of the show, you're very, very out there. You're out there on the streets. It's very noticeable. And you've put yourself in some very dangerous situations as well. I've seen some of the footage when you were in Calais and other places. And, hand on heart for you, mate. I mean, well done, mate, for having the bravery to do that. Because there's a lot of people that will post stuff on social media and say, I'm this and I'm that. But you won't see them stand as a candidate. You won't see them at a protest. You won't see them in a live debate. You won't see them stand up and speak out, but they'll do it online. And for that, sir, I take my hat off to you and to anybody that does that. Going back to my next question, really, is to do with UKIP itself. I mean, where are you guys at now as a party? Because we've had the, Restore come on the scene. We've had Reform, who have been polling over 300, over 300 polls. UKIP, I've had a rebranding, as you can see here, our viewers. I mean, where are you at right now? We'll talk about later, where you're going. But right now, as a party, where do you guys stand? Are you still a serious electoral political party, or are you more of a protest movement?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So the good stuff. Here we go. You're absolutely right. The history of UKIP is not relevant or interesting at this stage to your viewers. I'm not sure it will ever be. What's now is not what was 10, 15 years ago. So you've got the height of UKIP, the Brexit stuff, Nigel's transformation into Brexit Party. This is historical. This is historical now. It's not relevant to us now as such. So it's a complete overhaul, but we keep the name. And the reason why we keep the name is because when I'm anywhere on planet Earth and I'm doing the conference thing and I'm meeting people, they know UKIP. It would be very foolish for me to change the name. The name must stay. But I think that I think the name's problematic because everyone associates that with Nigel and Brexit, which is kind of gone, and we didn't get Brexit. And also Nigel's upset so many people along the way via his little tactics and what he does, etc., etc. So the name must stay, but I think the name's potentially problematic. We are, as you know, I have to say this, we are a registered political party. We have donors, we have bank accounts, we have a little merch store. Obviously, I'm being facetious. We're a political party. We can't just fold. We can't just fold. It doesn't work like that. Ben Habib understands that. Lo understands that. So UKIP is a fully fledged, bona fide, operating and funded, thanks be to God, political outfit, which is fielding candidates to stand in the 2029. I'm just going to say 2029 because I don't think that Andy Burnham's going to call a general election. No one knows when the general election is going to be. So just bear with me when I say 2029 because that's just for ease. So my leadership management style is to be very hands-on, and I've got a fantastic team. I should throw this in there right now. I've got a fantastic team, security, media, activism, and research as well. We run a bunker style operation. So I think the Tories, you know better than me, Rich, the Tories are funded to the tune of 20 to 30 million a year. And I think Reform, is it like 5-10 mil, something like that? Our operating, something like lots of money. Our operating costs are a tenth of that. I've been very public about this as well. We only hire part-time salaries. There's no need to have people full-time outside of, there's 3 people that are full-time. So I think that you and I both know, guys, that in a political party, there's an awful lot of leakage and an awful lot of wastage as well. Yeah. And there were UKIP leaders who were quite revered, who spent an awful lot of money on leafleting campaigns, which people inside the tent know that they did that. And I hear about this years later when I came in, when I got the position, and I thought, who allowed that? How did that happen? So anyway, there's none of that. We're out of time to save Britain. The mission, to understand the mission, it is an educational mission to wake our brothers and sisters up, the 35 million, the Brexit voters, the 13 million evangelicals, the 12 million Protestants, the 4 million Catholics, that number is rapidly growing, the 250,000 Orthodox. I believe there are about 30 million. In 2021, there were 46 million people registered to vote. Fine, let's just use 46. I believe there are at least 23 million people, half of this nation, who are on side with us, guys. They've understood that they are one of us. We are blue blood. Our ideology is conservatism, and our faith that gives us strength, our purpose, what built the West, and indeed Britain, is Christianity. So it's a complete rebrand at UKIP, bar the name. I hope I've been clear about that. And we're fielding candidates. And if I could just tack on this last bit to produce the next question, because I think I know what it's going to be. In recent interviews in the last 6 weeks, and I'm really happy to share this with you guys now, and hopefully we can make this a regular thing. I believe that Makerfield had to happen to wake people up about the absolute insanity of the creation of these new parties endlessly. I've seen it so many times now. It is boring. It is boring. It is uninspiring, and it is demotivating. And I'm sick of it. And it's got nothing to do with individual attacks at anyone. I saw it last year with Homeland and everything that happened there. I've been tracking and tracing various different groups. I'm sure you guys are aware that there is a far right in Britain, and those groups keep splintering. They keep splintering continuously. And it started with Mosley had this party called the British Union of Fascists. Then it was the National Front, which a lot of people don't know about. But if you're in activism, conservative activism, you need to know about this stuff. It's a fun little trip down memory lane looking at all of that nonsense in the 70s. Then you've got to know about the BNP. Right, you guys know what I'm talking about. So we're blue-blooded conservatives, so we have to be able to defend our position, because the left just lump us in with these people over here. So my message is this to your audience. We are a bona fide political party with huge heritage, huge electoral success, and in the capacity of being a pressure group. To your point, Rich, we are fielding candidates for 29. We must reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government. So fielding candidates who are both out and out Christian and also supporters of the faith, but not necessarily an outward Christian or practicing a Christian, someone who would identify as a disciple, for example. Supporters of the faith, that'll do. That's up. Everyone's on their journey. And what I will say is, to put a bow around that, when in summer 24, guys, I'm there ready to go, and the reform mind virus was everywhere. You couldn't break free from it, and all of the influencers backed it. I've done this over and over again in podcasts, so I'm going to be brief now. And then I offered Ben Habib, he turned me down. What more can I do? I offered Rupert Lowe, he turned me down. I offered Tommy, he turned me down. And now look where we are. So we are a bona fide political party who is consistently doing the business. We are consistently attracting membership, consistently attracting candidates, and consistently attracting donors. Because you guys know, if you don't have donors, you need donors. But every single time we've got momentum, every time we've grown, a new party's been formed, then a lobby group, which turned into a new party, then another party, then another party. So I know it's a long answer. If Reform have got 300,000 members and the Conservatives have got 100,000 members, and Ben has 45,000 members and Lowe's got 100,000 members, there's only so many members in the UK, guys. There's only so many people who are registered to vote, who have understood the mission. There's only a pool. I've actually worked it out previously. If you can count red, yellow, and green, there's about 1 million people out of the 46 million registered to vote. Only a percentage of them are political activists. They'll be a member. They'll donate, and all of that membership is being hogged by all these different people. So it is a frustration. Our full transparency. It is a frustration. The Patriots and that 23 mil, guys, they are waking up. But we are running out of time. At some point, Makerfield has to be the final point where they go, do you know what? Maybe we do need something young. Maybe we do need something explicitly Christian. Maybe we do need something very ambitious and aggressive in orientation. Maybe we do need these things. Maybe, just maybe, we already have the party, guys. Maybe we have the answers.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to do a little video where you were out and about and just show sort of what you do. But there is a question I have to ask at the very end. So just bear with us and just have a watch this. What was that little movement at the end?
That's the Trump dance, isn't it?
No, but what was that at the end?
I
What
get
was
so
that
much,
at the end?
I do the Trump dance, guys. I get so much stick. I'm not going to be rude, but you can. The left are so rude when I do this. It's the Trump dance, and they bastardize it into something sexually explicit, which really offends me. So let's be absolutely clear, guys. Thank you for showing that, and you, by definition, you give me a right of reply, and I thank you for that. In October 2024, it was all kicking off. Not to sound like a know-it-all, but the Reform Mind virus, guys, the appointment of Zia, you guys remember this, Ben Habib was kind of outed, and then the Richard Tice maneuver, etc. Listen, that was just business. Ben didn't like it. I don't blame him. Ben put, what, £1 million into Reform. Ben's a nice guy as well. Like, everyone loves Ben. He's a great guy. But I called it summer of 24, Trafalgar Square, July, everyone, the 50,000 Patriots, Tommy included, everyone back Reform, and Nigel's a liberal. God love him. The guy's a liberal, right? And he loves to be liked. This is unacceptable. We need explicitly Christian stuff going into Parliament. Then we had the Habib situation and the Zia Yusuf stuff. Tommy invited me on stage, Unite the Kingdom. I want to say Saturday, October 31st, but I don't remember the date. And on the Wednesday, guys, one of his guys called me up. He's a well-known activist, patriot. And he didn't call me up. I got the text. This was on the Wednesday. For the Saturday, I wasn't going to turn that down, guys. I wasn't going to turn that down. 50,000 Patriots. Now, you've seen me at street level 1 million times. Yes, I often have a script, and you've seen how I deliver it. I write my own speeches. I learn it, but then I often do have it because a lot of the time there's stats and numbers because we're dealing with immigration and the hotels and other such things. And other times it's too hot and I tear it up and I just give something off the cuff because all I do all day, every day is just recite these monologues, right? Because I'm weird like that. October, Unite the Kingdom, 50,000 people. And I have researchers, I have special advisors, very small streamlined team. And I said, we need a salute. We need a gesture. We need something, right? And the chest pump, the move is in two parts. It's a chest pump, and you saw from the clip, and it's irrefutable. My fist is closed. Just going to lean up there slightly. So it's a chest pump with the fist closed. This is a military term. If you're in a platoon and that goes up, that means stop. It means all sorts of things. And there's the chest pump as well. You know the Elon Musk thing when he says, my heart goes out to all of you. I'm not going to raise my arm because I'm just going to get in trouble for it. But, you know, he had an open hand there. But you can also, lots of football players doing it during the World Cup. They do that, and it's, you know, that kind of, or whatever, you know, gesture, etc. So we came up with this, and then I'll extend my elbow so you guys can see. And then the fist comes out like that. Now, the reason why that got selected was because it's not subversively mocking Black Lives Matter, I'll be honest with you. But there was a very high, one of the high profile Black Lives Matter activists was a woman called, I think it was Sasha, I forget her name now.
Tanisha something, wasn't it? Was she one that got done for fraud?
So I forget her name, guys, but it will come back to me. And anyway, she so I would see this a lot. Now, you guys were kind enough to ask me about my biography. I really could have gone on longer, but I was already giving 5-10 minutes worth of an answer. During the summer of 2020, I'm choking on the Black Lives Matter stuff, that Bristol situation, the statue. Again, my dissertation was on Marxism, liberalism, third world thermonuclear war. Like, it all came flooding back to me. You know, I know what commies are like, and they're the arch enemy, not just of conservatives, but of Holy Mother Church as well, which I'm sure we'll come on to talk about. So I was enraged at the time. So going back 2 years, a fist that it's not designed to subversively mock Black Lives Matter, but if they can do it, so can I. And if I extend my elbow up, but imagine now it's a full arm, you know, where you just hold up like the fist, basically, like in a straight line. Mm-hmm. So it had to be something that, you know, if they can do it, we can do it. Mm-hmm. So it goes across, but it has to be a slick move. So it goes across and then it goes straight out like that. So it's basically a power move with a power fist. And there was any number of ways that I could have choreographed that. Everyone knows what the fist looks like, and everyone knows what the arm looks like. So I did that on stage after my speech in October of 24, and no one, the left and the media, no one knew about it. It's 500,000 people watching online, 500,000 people and 50,000 in person, and no one picked up on it, which takes us to what? Summer, September or August of last year. I was invited to lead, as I always am, a protest in Portsmouth. And of course, I'm there. I meet my security guys and we go and do our thing. And the music was playing, which is the Trump dance stuff. And then I incorporated the across the chest and then out like that. I incorporated that and I did it really quickly. And stand up to racism. And I did it because obviously everyone was watching and it was boiling hot and whatever. Just sometimes we have a bit of fun with it, put some music on. It's a pretty horrific campaign, the deportations campaign. It happened, but sometimes we use music. And stand up to racism, they've cropped my fist. They've made the video as you guys have got it, which is obviously went very, very viral. And they've cropped my fist out of the picture. So they always put the video and then the picture. And I'll be very honest with you guys. Do you know what? Like, you mentioned about joy earlier, and I didn't actually answer the question, but to be fair, we're covering a lot. Do you know what? No regrets. Water for ducks back. Pick up every day. We pick up our cross. But you know what? That bastardization, guys, that propaganda, that's a new level. Because if they call me Nazi, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I was raised by the boomers. This is no problem whatsoever. Call me a fascist. It's deplorable, but no problem. But to produce visual propaganda like that, where they deliberately remove my wrist, they're saying there's actual proof there that he's performed a Nazi salute. Everyone knows it's not a Nazi salute, and it also wouldn't win me anything. It wouldn't win me donors. It wouldn't win me candidates. It wouldn't win me support, members, mainstream media attraction. So I will say this. Do I regret the salute? No. But that piece of propaganda made me think every single time, you guys know the tightrope that I walk every day. Every single time I see that, I think to myself, all I had to have done that day was not done it. And I'm not talking about Portsmouth. I'm talking about UTK. I'm talking about all the other times I've done it. All I had to do was not do it. Every decision we live and die by, not because I've done anything wrong, but because, and I think it is a cool salute, but because they twisted it. They twisted it in a certain way. And that is, it really does grate on me. You know, it really does.
I hear that because I have a particular person that every single post that I put up on my X, and I put a lot of different things up, and the ones where I do the videos myself, because I do sign language, I'm very, very expressionate with my hands, and I will just kind of like, so this, for instance, just so you know, in sign language, that is okay. Now, apparently, this particular person who literally trawls through every single video I do and breaks it up into little pieces and says, you are a Mason, you're a Masonic, you're a devil worshipper, and because I'm doing even that now, I'm talking like that is I love you in sign language. So if I say I love you, and that is I hate you, and there's lots and lots of different things with sign that actually could look a little bit dodgy, but I do that with my hands. And so they have clipped it. They then put photos up, and then I am just completely bombarded with, you are this, you are that. Well, it's so far from the truth, because that is not who I am, and that is not what I do. So I totally get, sort of how people adapt things to suit their narrative, and it drives me mad, because again, you become a target, and that's what we don't want. We want to be our mission and for us as patriots to be able to say what we need to say without having that lambasting and that kind of target on our back.
If you'll permit me. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Nick. I was going to say, Jesus did say, didn't he, that in this world you will have persecution, but be of good cheer, because I've overcome the world. I mean, the fact is, you're doing right when you're being persecuted. And when you're speaking truth to power, if you're not having anybody attack you, then you're obviously not doing your job very well. And I think we've all experienced that at different levels, at different times in our lives. And as Rogue's pointed out there, the trolling that goes on, I mean, I should imagine you get a lot of it as well. You get to the point where you don't get offended. You don't get you just laugh it off, don't you? It's just like, oh, here he goes again. Here she goes again. They're on one again. It's just pointless and meaningless. But it does show you the kind of how fickle people can be. They can read into things that aren't really there, when all you're doing is standing up for the truth and integrity of what you believe in and the message you're trying to give to people. Especially, as a leader of a political party, I suppose some political leaders will feel constraints. So there's something they won't say because, for example, abortion, for example, assisted dying, we could go on, the list could go on. These moral issues for Christians, the Catholic Church or the Protestant Church, sometimes when you bring them into the political landscape, if you like, they're not palatable to a lot of people who are into politics. So they try to say, well, let's not talk about that. And it's one of the challenges we have on this show, is trying to, bring them both together, to say to people, listen, these two go hand in hand. Because when you go back in biblical times, as you would know, Nick, you had kings and you had priests. The priests, if you like, were the advisors to the king. That was political. Donald Trump has it right now. Paula White and many other pastors and ministers in the USA, they pray every morning in the Oval Office. They advise him. They even give him prophetic words of what is coming down the road. And that's why he's hated by so many left-wing liberals, because they don't believe in God. And I think that's what we're seeing in this country as well. And it is a spiritual battle, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the spiritual warfare that you both alluded to tonight, which links into the question about experiencing joy, which I really must answer, because not for me, for your audience, to help out people who are suffering. I will admit that the previous subject, that there have been two things that have annoyed me in the last 2 years. It's water for ducks back. That's one of them, and it genuinely did upset me. Stand up to racism, but it really does annoy me, because it's such a bastardized, it's such a lie. And then there's another thing that happened, which I'm not going to talk about. But those two things really have sort of stuck with me. So spiritual warfare is for your audience, secular, atheist, agnostic, or if you're a disciple, there is no denying it that this is spiritual warfare. It is foretold also. It's littered throughout the Bible, certainly aspects of it in Revelation as well. And that's that. There's a full stop there. Good luck trying to explain that to or convince atheists. We don't do that. We don't tend to do that. We're not. It's not a good thing to do, and you shouldn't push it like that. But anyway, good luck trying to do that. So it's no, it's not a physical war. Bullets, bloodshed. Our grandparents, your grandparents, my grandparents, they had all that. That's all been and gone. It's littered throughout the church's teaching with regards to prophetic, which was foretold with regards to what would happen to Portugal, France, Spain, Russia as well. Again, good luck trying to convince Protestants of Catholic dogma, which is a huge, great big problem. The only religious text I've ever read which stands up to communism is a Catholic book, and it was it's the special prayer that is said against communism, which the church which the church offers. But I'm sure lots of our evangelical brothers and sisters would be fine with that. So I'm sure that there's synergy there. But that no one can deny that if we need to be saying the prayer to Holy Michael Archangel, we need to be doing that as much as possible, because this is it, guys. No bullets, no shot fired. Throughout history, you've got Vlad the Impaler, you've got the fending off in Portugal of the Moors in the Crusades. The Islamic Caliphate conquered the northeast of Africa, across the northern African coast, as you know, and then entered into mainstream Europe. And it was ordered, go and take these people out as an act of self-defense. So again, I mentioned Vlad the Impaler as well, heads on spikes, right? We know our lineage. Presumably you guys are Anglo-Saxon. I don't know, obviously, your surnames, but we've all got our heritage and our lineage. And
don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on the Anglo-Saxons. They raped and pillaged our villages in Wales. Don't get me started on that tonight, Nick.
It's a bad move. Forget I said anything. Just let me come back. I want to go back.
Rewind.
I want to go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only a third English, Rich. We're good. Anglo-Saxon or whatever. The new debate is. So we all hail from ancestors that at some point had a sword and a shield in their hand. So there's no denying it. The radical trans lobby stuff, the puberty blocker stuff, that pushed most people over the edge about 5-6 years ago, especially mothers, especially women. That you don't want to upset the matriarch. The patriarch is strong, but you do not want to upset the matriarch. Everyone knows that. So we know that. Yeah, absolutely. We know that this is spiritual warfare. There will be no fight back. We don't have guns. We don't have our own military. The state would be all over you like a cheap suit if you ever went near that, which I would never advise. I'd never condone. There is only one way to do this. It is peacefully, it is democratically, and it is through the process. And in the case of Brother Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, many of us will die. If the state wants you gone, whether it's the deep state, CIA, Mossad, the Chinese, the Russians, it doesn't matter. MI6 has got just as much blood on his hands as any other intelligence agency. The deep state is the deep state, whether they're run by the cabal or the globalists. It doesn't matter, guys. If they want you gone, you will be gone. Fine. But we are Christians. This life is temporary. This is a test to see whether we get into heaven or not. To die for the faith is automatic martyrdom. It's automatic sainthood. Sign me up. Yeah, it's very sad, and you leave behind maybe a wife and children if you're lucky enough to have that. But if you are a disciple and you're doing all of this, I will be persecuted for the sake of justice. Number 8 on the Beatitudes, if memory serves. As you said earlier, Rich, sign me up. This is spiritual. To your audience, I don't know how many people are going to see this. This atheist, agnostic, secular, doesn't matter. It's no judgment. This is spiritual warfare. The communist plot, the globalist plot involves psychological warfare to wear you down. It's not designed to kill you. It's not designed to take you out. It's designed to exhaust you. It's designed
to rob you of your joy.
Yeah, it's designed to rob you of your joy. It's designed to make you destitute. It's designed to make you anxious and depressed. It's designed to reduce testosterone. It's designed to make you doubt yourself. And when a man doubts himself, that is a slippery slope to the, God forbid, depression. Anxiety is much easier to deal with, but God forbid a man goes anywhere near that, because we've all seen it. We've all been there. And your testosterone goes. And this is what separates us. This is what the women need from us. This is what our children need from us as well. This is what it's all about. The agenda, the overall agenda that's so very fatiguing, that wants to end our manhood, take away our sense of pride, and we must be bloodthirsty for justice and for Christ. And to deny that this is not spiritual warfare is absolutely nonsense. And how do you fight spiritual warfare? With the cross. You cannot fight spiritual warfare without the armor of God and the shield of faith.
I want to talk about this gentleman, King Charles, and as some people will say, not my king. So obviously the former chaplain for King Charles says that his multi-faith stance is a betrayal of the Christian faith. Now, I mean, we all know how we feel about that, because we know that he is supposed to be the defender of the faith. And now it's become plural, which means that, again, the influx that is happening with the boats coming over gives them a priority actually over us, and that is really, really concerning, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's really concerning, and I think that fits in nicely. It's really exhausting. It's really fatiguing, isn't it? It's the same stuff over and over again. Why is this happening? The injustice, it grates, it fatigues you so much, it weakens bones. It really does, guys. A child looking up to the father, or watching the mother and the father, love each other within the marriage. Looking up to, we used to look up to policemen. These are the first responders. These guys will take a bullet for you. Cops always die on the front line. Nurses, doctors, statesmen, governors. How about a king? How about priests? Teachers? Once an elder brother, for example, once you are a certain, or an older sibling, should I say, once you are a certain rank, where again, there's a whole host of examples there. The king, he should be it should be a light.
Yeah.
What it should be a light. So what I would say to it, guys, is that I'm aware of the outrage, and I know how you both feel, and it's just so fatiguing. The Gavin Ashenden, obviously I'm in contact with Gavin. There's not a lot that we can galvanize on, or team up on, but in the future, and he knows people that I know as well stateside, and everyone's doing their bit fighting the good fight. They really are. But so it broke whenever it was, last week or the week before. I really don't know who broke the story or what happened, but it's this, as you say, it's this defender of multiple faiths type of thing, going back to what I said about heads on spikes, Vlad the Impaler, and defending against the Moors. There's just one example of the Crusades. The Islamic Caliphate is real. The Islamic Caliphate is real, and it is too strong and aggressive and expansionist in orientation to negotiate with. I'm not talking about ordinary Muslims. I'm not talking about little Abdul or little, Fatima, which is a Christian name, but they're often called similar names, etc. I'm not talking about those people. We should save our Muslim sisters from the shackles of Islam. We should feel for them. We should fight for their freedom, and our brothers that are enslaved as well. I'm talking about the Islamists. I'm talking about the sheikhs and the former sultans and the imams who know what they're doing. The caliphate. They know what they're doing. The caliphate is just too strong, aggressive, and expansionist in orientation to be negotiated with platitudes and diplomacy. And that's what's happened in direct response to that, guys. That's what's happened. The king, like the liberals and the left, have said, and it's all part of the same nonsense. So for your audience, I'll give them the sort of money shot now. The left and the liberals, they're not illegals, they're refugees. Why can't we have them here? Okay, fine, we agree. The tone has shifted in the last 2 weeks, 10 days. Okay, yeah, they are illegal, they are undocumented, they are unvetted. So let's change all that. So let's change the laws so that they become refugees, and then we're all on the same page. Well, that's really naughty, isn't it? Because we do feel for these people. So they are fleeing Islamic State. They are economic migrants. They do want a better life. My great grandparents came here. Again, the story, it all ties up, but they're unvetted, they're undocumented. And so the establishment, King Charles, and I want to involve Pope Leo as well, if you'll permit me, guys, they're all in a position now where they have to pick a side. They've heard the protesting throughout Europe, with all of our European brothers and sisters, all the networking that's been going on for the last half a decade, and all the photo shoots and the solidarity team shots and the collaborations on Instagram for short form media and getting the message out there. This is what we always talk about. The establishment, the state have listened, and they've gone, right, we need to legitimize mass uncontrolled legal and illegal immigration. We need to we don't need to reverse it or stop it. That's why we need to take power to begin mass deportations and re-immigration. But they're not going to do that. So they have to legitimize it. And if you'll permit me, for your audience, that's what King Charles and Pope Leo is doing. They're saying, I don't know whether these guys have guns to their head in dark rooms by the Secret Service. I really don't know whether the cabal has them exactly. They show them some compromising photos and they're like, you're going to do what we say, otherwise it's game over time. I honestly don't know, guys, but it's not an apology for King Charles, but so your audience is aware, Pope Leo, King Charles, and even right-leaning politicians, pundits, journalists, and even politicians, everyone, as a result of the right's protest for years now, they've had to listen. they have to pick a side. And in the case of Pope Leo and Charles, they've gone, but they're not all murderers.
Yeah.
They're not all rapists. So clever, isn't it? It's like, yeah, no, we know that. But even if one of them is, that's unacceptable.
That's
Plus
one too
also,
many.
we don't want the Islamic Caliphate in Britain. But these, again, it's not an apology, guys. But Charles has been put, as has the Pope, in a position where they have to pick a side. We can either go staunch, homeland, nationality, faith, and you can involve skin. A lot of people involve skin color. I personally don't, but a lot of people do. I don't care. For Christians, it's not about skin color. But all the aforementioned, and they can pick a side and go, no, enough's enough. And these people, these world leaders have so much money, so much influence, and so much power. And what have they done, including the Pope? They've gone with option B, which is actually, guys, what did John Lennon say? We're just one big family, no borders, no religion. We're just what? Communists.
Yeah. We've got some questions for you here, and I would like to just bring one up. So, John Lawrence. Oh no, not that one. Hang on, 2 seconds. I have a lot of time for Nick. I met him a couple of years ago. He came to Oldham. Ask him about it. Do you remember John Lawrence and going to Oldham?
I remember my trip very, very well. I remember John. He was a fantastic host, and
Isn't he brilliant?
Whenever I'm in the field, I will always be with a certain team member or multiple, and it's a listening exercise when we're with hardened activists in places like Oldham. And John really gave me he was happy to give me so much knowledge, and the things that you hear from these people in these areas, way away from white middle class suburbia and the leafy suburbs and all of that sort of stuff, depending on where you live. And I thank John for that, because it was hugely edifying. So yeah, I do remember the trip.
He's such a lovely guy. Actually, we met him in Liverpool. He's just so lovely and so accommodating. Okay, another question. What happens? Is it odd? Fails the voting the peaceful way or fail? I need to try and decipher that. What happens? Is it odd? Fails the voting the peaceful way or fail? Okay, I'm going to go to the next one, because maybe that. Would you consider a coalition with Restore and work together?
So, fantastic question. So, what I said about halfway through, very privileged tonight to be able to tell you guys this, as I've been doing in the last 3 or 4 podcasts with the influencers or whatever, journalists, whatever you want to be called. And thanks be to God for your existence. It's time to wake up to the realities. Makerfield has to be the last line. It has to be. You don't like Nigel? We don't like Nigel. It's way more complicated than that. Nigel and Reform, the Nigel Farage industrial war complex, is where it is. In terms of the rights representation, Nigel Farage, this isn't about emotion. This is about 3D chess, and it's about boxing clever. And yes, it's about holding your nose. In terms of infrastructure, donations, and the pathway to power, he is the rights representation, whether you like it or not. And what Rupert did with his team, it's called grab your nuts and go for glory. I love that. Great. Here's the thing about grab your nuts and go for glory. If you do that, you can't win. But leaders in war have done this with their battalions for centuries. Great idea. But guess what? Your Marines aren't allowed to die. SEALs aren't allowed to die. You're not allowed to die. You have to win. You have to win. Vietnam, another good example. Again, dealer's choice. If you're going to go for it and napalm it, you've got to win. He didn't win. And I know that everyone's going to say that the amount of votes between Reform's candidate, guy called Rob, and Restore's candidate, woman called Rebecca, both lovely people, I'm sure, added up to less than Andy Burnham's vote. It doesn't matter. The British public are so lost. They're so hopeless. They're so disillusioned. They have no leader. All they see is infighting, divisions. And this is where I have to say this, guys. And we do it all together on 3. Divisions don't unify. Schisms don't unify. And it pains me to say it. Schisms don't unify. And it's just, you got to keep saying it over and over again, guys. Division doesn't unite. And it is so painful. So, great question. I have been reaching out to Rupert since February 2025. He still hasn't got in touch with me. He knows who I am. Dan Wotton's done his best, and he's facilitated all of that. Ben Habib will call me. Ben Habib will meet with me. He'll give me his time. We've got a fantastic working relationship. I'm ever so fond of him. I really do like Ben. Why has Rupert not called me? Where's my, do you know what? DM me. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm casual. I don't care. I don't need a letter with a little rubber stamp, with the candle wax. I don't need any of that, like a scroll. Just DM me, Rupert. Let's get together and let's talk. The right needs to see leadership.
Absolutely.
In the home, you need to see leadership. Our king, us, our governors, the police. We're back to that basic, masculinity and leadership. The right need to see leadership. Now, what the question is, joining up with Restore. There is no joining up with political parties. You'd be asking me to close bank accounts. You're talking about an enormous amount of money as well. It doesn't work like that. And then the huge fraction that would occur, again, another split, another division, which is just all of the different little micro parties, so-called on the right. They're all schisms from UKIP, as we all know anyway. And that's not me being disparaging. Sorry, they are schisms from UKIP. What we now need, Ben Habib has done the right thing, and thanks be to God for that man. He's done the right thing. And the whole giving it to the members to decide. I don't care about the details. We don't need any more new parties on the right. Absolutely no more new. There are 19 parties on the right. It's absolute madness. That leaves us with one recourse, guys, and one recourse only. Nigel may well be a liberal. Is he going to deport? We don't know. Is he going to reinstate the faith? We don't know. It doesn't matter. In terms of representation, he is all we have, which is why we must build the Christian army. We will be ready and waiting. If Reform don't do the business, we will be ready and waiting with our Christian nationalists and the 6 missions that I've devised to reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government. So I'm happy to meet with Rupert and Nigel and Kemi, agree on our ideology, agree on the missions, and then tell the public that we will from now on be a united front. And I've worked out what the math looks like on that and how we do that. But it's not about throwing it in and going in with another party. As I said right at the start, guys, I've seen this happen for 2 years. Parties and leaders come and go. They come and go. I'm not falling for it. Not falling for it. We're too smart for that. It's not happening.
So if the government control all media and online, how would anyone like UKIP, Restore, etc. get a look in if everything is banned and blocked?
So the language there is, if I could just tweak that slightly, the banning and the blocking that the gentleman's referring to, or the individual's referring to, this inevitability, guys, is coming. The banning, the blocking, it's coming. We're running out of time to say the Islamic Caliphate this, abortion that, the birth rate of 1.6 the other, the advent of the legitimization of far left extremism, i.e. the commies teaching our children, radical gender theory, the puberty blocker stuff. I mean, that's just 4, 5, 6 items just off the top of the head. We're running out of time. And then there's digital ID and CBDC as well. And the World Economic Forum's plans. It's not just one enemy. There are multiple. The deep state, the globalists, the enemy's always within, the traitors. We've alluded to some of that tonight. We're running out of time. So we have to take power. We have to take power now. And the only way we can do that, as you know, is by returning a majority of candidates, which means that everyone has to sign up to become a member, put their name forward to become a candidate, and then under my leadership win in a general election. That's the only way. And I just want to caveat that with linking that to my previous point. Whilst we build that army, going back to the how's UKIP doing, whilst we build that army, guys, we have no choice but to support Nigel, whatever that looks and sounds like. And there's lots of different ways you can do that, but we have to end the infighting. Nigel's 66 in 3 years' time. At some point, the baton has to be handed on to the younger generation. So we need to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking of another verse, actually, scripture that says, a house divided will not stand, a house divided against itself. And it appears that's been the case. And it's so refreshing, Nick, to hear you as a party leader to say, listen, I'm not in this just to be, a leader of a political party. I want what's best for my country. And the problem we've had is we've had the politics of ego and envy for far too long. And on our show here, we've, during the Welsh elections, we were saying to people, look, even if you don't like reform, they're the only ones that can beat Labour and potentially keep Plaid Cymru out, which they're worse than the Greens, by the way, in Wales.
Yeah.
So vote for reform. It doesn't make us reform voters, supporters, or members, but you've got to look at the bigger picture and always look at what's in front of you. And as you rightly said, right now, they're riding a crest of a wave. The establishment are attacking him left, right, and centre. Yes, he might have made some distasteful decisions over, donations and everything else, blah, blah, blah. But they're attacking him for a reason. If people can't see this, it's a deliberate attack to discredit the man, because they know that if he wins the next general election, and again, it's a trust issue for a lot of people, because he said he's going to do things and then he might, do a flip-flop on it. But it's the best that we've got right now, and we've got to keep that pressure up. UKIP, or whether it's Restore Britain, whatever political party, people are part of, they can hold his feet to the fire and make sure he delivers on the promises for the British people, because we've got to get rid of this left-wing Labour government. I don't care. I don't care if it's Restore. I don't care if it's UKIP. I just do not want any more of Labour in power. They've done enough damage already, and I can't see another 10 years, another term of them, another 5 years after 2029. It would be deplorable. And so for a lot of people, I mean, look, again, I'm not a member. I've been accused of being a paid kind of promoter for reform. I'm not. I'm just speaking common sense. It's the party that's going to win. Look at the local elections, right? They won over 1,500 seats. It's extraordinary what they've done. And they've got the money, they've got the messaging. Whether you trust Farage is a separate question. But in a democracy, that can change. And hopefully they'll become more democratic. So in the future, the members will have a say rather than the shareholders. And so there's all those questions. But I'm with you, Nick. And I just want to say thank you for being a man who puts the country before his own party, because that's been the problem with previous political parties, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an important point, and I can do it very, very succinctly. We have no time left, so it doesn't. What we feel doesn't matter. Feelings aren't relevant. Nigel has been selected. He is the man. He's got the funding. He's got the donors, and he's the right representation. And the attack dogs of reform, who have softened up to me in the last couple of years. At first, they weren't very nice to me, but they've been really nice to me and sent me really nice messages over the last 24 months, especially with my statement on Gorton and Denton and Makerfield as well, where they actually they opened their eyes to what I was doing. And they went, actually, hang on a minute. There's a successor going on here. There's a 25-year age gap between Nick and Nigel. And actually, things could happen now, right? This is business. It's all about professionalism. There are people who say that Nigel is playing the long game. We always use this expression in first past the post politics. The vast majority of Britain is liberal, secular, and potentially very patriotic. So all of the Christians campaigning, and it's the best example I can give your audience, who are all the Christians who are campaigning, and it's the hill they die on to end abortion. Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely have to end widespread abortion. Absolutely we do. But it's not a vote winner. It's not going to win in your constituencies. No. So it's not, again, not my rules. So Nigel drafting in Zia. That was told to me at the time. That was for lots of different tactical reasons. To say that strategy doesn't play a part in first past the post politics, Nigel knows. Makerfield's a great example. If you go and campaign in Makerfield on mass deportations, and the vast majority of the 80,000 people in Makerfield care about ducks in ponds, they're not going to vote for you. You haven't run a successful campaign. You have to run campaigns that win hearts and minds, that matter to those people in those constituencies, and it takes an awful lot of time to build trust of the party, trust of the brand, trust of the leader. It takes a really long time to do all of those things. So to say that politicians and leaders don't play the long game, like you quite rightly say, Rich, and this is it. We don't know what he will or won't do. We have no idea. He said he would. Then Zia comes out with some really right-wing things. They are potentially not going to do them, but they're also potentially playing the long game. This is now about blocking the unholy alliance. This is about blocking communists. The Greens and the Yellows are actual communists. They're not liberals. They're not socialists. They are ardent communists who have psychotic designs on Britain. Not only do we have to block them, but we have to stop Tony Blair 2.0, and that is Andy Burnham. This isn't about us winning anymore. It's about stopping the flames, the fire, so that we can actually save the house. And the only way you can do that is by working together and by deploying strategy.
So there's another question here. It says, Nick, where does this country go when those meant to care lie, neglect, stand on our throats? And how can this country win back trust? We feel like guests in our own country.
So again, there's that fatigue, there's that destruction, there's that exhaustion, there's that betrayal. It's the word I'm looking for, and it's completely justified. So in sum, those questions are representative of everyone's question. Where do we go from here? What happens next? We've been betrayed, let the rape genocide of Britain being taxed into oblivion, both culturally and economically. We've been everything south of the boomer generation has had a pretty rough ride. Bearing in mind, England is Britain's the best country on earth. We're so very lucky geopolitically, in terms of weather, in terms of everything, down to the finer details. You're the luckiest person alive if you're born here. And we really need to assess what our problem is, by the way. Is it that we want it to ourselves? Is it that we want it how the 1950s had it? What is it? What are we? We can't undo the pornography. We can't undo the evil. We can't undo the billion babies that have been killed since 1900. We must ask ourselves these questions. What exactly is it we want? And I think that question relates to this very specific point, guys. People are so tired of the injustice. People want a fair shot. They want a fair shot. They don't want to be taxed into oblivion. They don't want to be paying money towards, they don't want to be a shoebox in various parts of the UK is 450 grand. You can't buy a home. You're not inclined to meet a nice girl. You put a ring on a finger, you get married, you go to the church, you get a nice little ceremony there through and in God. You then get a nice little house, you fill it with kids, you got a nice little plot of land. This is the dream. They call it the American dream. This is the Western dream. You can't buy a house. So where's the wife going to go? And where are the kids going to go? I'm not motivated to do this. But we're being taxed into oblivion. It doesn't make any sense. There's more than enough money to go around. And if people need help with this sort of stuff, this, of course, is the taxpayer pot. So that I feel for that comment, because it's the epicenter. We're so tired culturally and economically. We're so tired of the injustice. So where do we go from here? When we refer to justice, we're talking about the cross. When we refer to justice, we're talking about light, truth. We're talking about the sacrifice. Yeah. We're talking about the faith. We're talking about Christianity. Ask someone who's secular atheist. Talk me through justice. Talk me through norms and values, and they'll talk you through the 10 Commandments whilst disavowing God. It doesn't make any sense. Our values, ethics, morals, as you both rightly know, come from somewhere. The only way that we can restore Britain and return justice for our girls, first and foremost, but for our elderly and for our babies, is to reinstate Christianity back into the heart of government. There is no other way. The fatigue will continue, the suffering will continue, and we will lose our country.
Yeah, I mean, talking about fatigue, you know, this is like the last question I'm going to put up, but it says, we need something in this country before it is full civil war. They are pushing everyone more and more each day. There has to be this breaking point. And again, it's the fatigue that we're talking about. We are just so tired. So I find actually that there are two sides to this. So we have like two pendulum shifts, and the one shift is we're starting to become conditioned. And then the other side is we are still so fatigued. But in the fatigue, we are just so tired that we're becoming conditioned. So it's this kind of like vicious circle. And it is exhausting, because I look at certain things and you know, sort of rape and abuse, and what I am seeing is very, very close to my heart. And when I see what is happening, and I understand the very fabric of a woman and the maternal and everything that is being completely disengaged when you go through something like that, it absolutely breaks me, because I'm looking at what is happening in our country. I'm looking at these women who are going to be broken, and broken breeds broken, hurt breeds hurt. And so there is this completely clear agenda. There's nothing more, is it? It is an agenda to destroy what is a natural maternal, the masculine and the feminine. You know, we can have that both, and to have that destroyed and disemboweled almost is breaking us down, and I can't stand that, and I cannot stand back and watch this, and I feel like I have to say something, and this is why I want to do this. I want to do the podcast. I want to start speaking up for women, and you know, just people need to hear it, because I do not want you just to go, oh, it's just another rape, because we've heard it so many times. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with this. And I just think civil war, you know, men, I can't speak on behalf of you, but how are you feeling? You know, where are we at? Are you listening to this? Another rape, another murder, another innocent man, and another innocent girl. At what point is it breaking point?
Wow. So I'm going to say something which is very, very important for everyone to hear. The centrists, liberals, centrists, the middle ground people, we use the word liberals a lot, centrists. I alluded to this earlier, the state and the centrists, whether they're political activists, whether they're members, whether they work in banking, NHS, centrists, ordinary people that we're surrounded by, right? The middle ground people, and the state, they've worked this out. Did you know the most likely to rape and to murder are going to be A, male, B, age 18 to 28, and from a low socioeconomic background? Did you guys know that? Yeah. The level of propaganda and war and spiritual warfare, and psychological warfare, guys, we haven't seen anything yet. The term gaslighting was introduced about 5 years ago, and I really don't like it, because it's way too casual a word to actually understand what if you've ever been made to feel crazy by someone, it's obviously the word, that's what it means. It's actually disgusting to be around that. It's absolutely, it's fairly evil when a woman does it to a man, when a man does it to a woman, or when it's woman, you know, regardless of, you know, woman on woman, man on man, it's fairly abhorrent. The level of psychological warfare and the government spinning, it's not quite the same as making you feel like you're going crazy. That is manipulative coercion on another level. You have to be a very sick person to do that to another human being. The level of psychological warfare, guys, and for your audience, is nothing compared to what's going to happen, because the people, the centrists and the state have listened, and they've gone, we're in a real bind now. We now have to legitimize the advent of migrant terrorism, the advent of migrant rape, the advent of migrant terrorism, of migrant murder, which really goes against the grain for us Brits, because we have homegrown problems and we have imported problems.
Absolutely.
Or for those of you that know about Harold Shipman, those of you who know about the Moors murderers, Ian Huntley and Myra Hindley, Ian Brady, was it Brady and Myra Hindley? Sarah and Jessica, God rest their souls. Sarah Palin from the 90s. Madeleine McCann. We are going to have tragedies. We're going to have the rape genocide of Britain. We're going to have tragedies. And now what they're doing, guys, now listen carefully. This is what they're doing. They're saying, and they're doing this in short form reels is the best way to radicalize. We all know that. Propaganda and radicalization comes through short form reels. Long form podcasts play their part, but short form reels, that's the good stuff, both left and right. I'll be honest with you. What they're doing is they're saying, you know, it's not actually the migrants that are killing, it's the men. You know, it's not the migrants that are raping, it's the age 18 to 30. You know, it's not actually migrant terrorism. You're statistically more likely to commit murder and or rape or a serious sexual assault if you are male and age between 18 and 30, and from a drumroll deprived socioeconomic background. That's what's coming next, guys. The state and the liberals have the vast majority of people who are registered to vote. They've listened and they've gone, yeah, do you know what? They are invaders. Do you know what? They're not refugees. They're economic migrants. No, they haven't traveled Have you ever traveled 3,000 miles before on foot across a continent? It's seriously, the blisters are unheard of. They're economic migrants. So the left and the liberals, guys, this is the level of psychological warfare, not to kill the mood even further. Like you say, it's so exhausting. We have no idea how dark it's going to get. They're going to spin this into a victory and say, do you know what? Yep, they're invaders. Yep, men rape, men kill, men commit sexual assault. It's got nothing to do with the fact that they're from Eritrea and they've been colonized by radical Islam and they've seen their family chopped up and now they're here. The guy in Belfast on 5-6 Mondays ago. Guys, this is going to keep every day more girls, everyone's going to get raped and or killed, and the state and the media and the liberals will go, it's not a migrant problem, it's a capitalism problem, it's a colonial problem, it's a male problem, it's fighting age men between 18 and 30 who come from nothing, who are disenfranchised. That's your problem with capitalism, that's your problem with colonization. Now, in an ideal world, I could have done that a lot quicker, but it's important that your audience hears that, guys. I know it sounds terrifying, but we really haven't seen the extent to the psychological warfare that they're gonna deploy on our nation.
Somebody's just said here, Jesus would never be right wing. Well, there we go.
I'll happily respond to that, guys, but that's up to you.
No, please go ahead.
Okay. So the comment is deliberately subversive from somebody who is probably left wing, probably a liberal socialist, that type of, probably been through an indoctrination camp like a British university, for example. Probably the vast majority of these comments when it comes to bastardizing our faith come from liberal narcissistic personality disorder, which I was first to coin, by the way, which got me shut down from GB News, where in hindsight I probably shouldn't have said it, but it is such a thing as liberal narcissistic personality disorder. And it's where you say really clever things to essentially try and flummox someone's argument. And so they'll say Jesus was a refugee, Jesus would never be right wing, basically Jesus would never be socially conservative. Number one, to minimize our Lord and Savior, the Word made flesh, the Word incarnate, the Son of Man, the second person of the Trinity, to a refugee and or an immigrant and or a political ideology is about as blasphemous and egregious as it gets. So the individual that says these things, and again, I say this with love and kindness towards the male or female, young or old, that says this, I say this with kindness in my heart. Anything that's blasphemous and egregious, we ignore and we say you must repent. If it's a civilized conversation and it's not subversive in orientation, in this context, obviously I'm fielding questions from you guys. I'm working for you two tonight, but you've introduced questions. So if it was a sensible question, that's fine. But if it's blasphemous and egregious, the answer is no. You need a priest. You need to get you need to get into church. You need to repent is what you need to do. And then lastly, to your audience, I will remind them when they say things like that, Jesus would never be right wing. Socially conservative is a right wing position, and it is to conserve and to preserve. What are we conserving, guys? What are we preserving? We're conserving and preserving the traditions of our culture, and the traditions of our culture come from the church, comes from Christianity. Everything about our traditions, I mean, I know I'm preaching to the converted here with you guys, but when we say we're socially conservative, we're right wing, we are preserving what are we preserving and conserving? It's our traditions that we are preserving and conserving. So when the individual says Jesus would never be right wing, therefore socially conservative, he's absolute. Not only is it subversive and it's attempt at mockery, but it's also wrong. In fact, our Lord and Savior would be most pleased, I think, with us to preserve and conserve his church.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say as well, one thing about Jesus I do know, he was anti-establishment. It was the establishment that crucified him. So let's just remind ourselves, he was treated as an outcast, like most of us are. He was vilified. He was called demon-possessed. He was called all kinds of things. And so to have that subversive question, it, as you've just mentioned, then you've articulated it so well. It's actually quite funny actually, because he was anything but, but at the same time, he respected the law, render to Caesar's what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. And the thing is, everything belongs to God anyway. So it's a win-win. But, he was anti-establishment. And in that, if you looked at the lifetime of Christ, the 33 years he was on the earth, his teachings were really about justice. We mentioned at the start of the program, you talked a lot about that, Nick. It was about doing what is right. And as Rogue's mentioned, it's about love. It's about all the principles that in us as human beings we have fallen short of. Every single one of us. We try to be good people, but we fail because we're human, living in a fallen world in fallen bodies because of sin. And the only way you can get rid of that sin is through Christ. Is through his forgiveness, is through his shed blood on the cross and receiving him as your savior, and as you mentioned, Nick, already, repenting of that sin and then accepting him. And then you find that inexplicable joy, that joy even in the middle of the storms in your life. Things are going on, things are going chaotic, but you can find peace and you can find joy. And sometimes to some of our viewers, it's hard to explain because it's better felt than it is told. It's an experience one has to have, not something you learn with your brain. And I think once people get that, it happened to me in 1993. I was in prison, I was on drugs, etc., had an encounter with God, changed my life. Simple as that. Did I become perfect? By God, no. Did I not? No. If anything, I got worse before I got better. But everyone is a work in progress, and but by the grace of God, each of us, every single day, we have to rely on his unfailing grace. It is just something that I live my life by every single day. Wake up in the morning and remember his mercies are new every morning.
So in regards to our English and British culture, there was somebody that went out on the streets and asked about our British culture. So what do you think, if I was to say, what is Britain, what is our British culture, what is the most renowned thing, what would you come back with?
So this subject about, I think you said it better than I did. What is English culture? What is British culture? There's also a far right faction that denounces any use of the term British, and it's just England, and a very sort of separatist sort of ideology in terms of, or understanding rather, of where we've come from. I've also been, I've had racial slurs pointed at me in the last couple of years, which is weird after 40 years of being alive, getting called a wop. And I'm like, what do you, like, what does that even mean? Like, how can you, what? And there's a real growing, and other things as well. There's a real growing sentiment there. What defines us? And it's a lot of people, it's skin color. And I'm like, as a conservative, that doesn't hold any water whatsoever. It really doesn't. I've met plenty of people who may not be English. They were born here and therefore they're British, and they are absolute stalwart patriots and good people as well. So I say things. I saw the video that you're referring to, and I think to myself about Alfred the Great. I think about Horatio Nelson. I think about the Beatles. I think about David Attenborough. I think about William Shakespeare, Ricky Gervais, Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, for the good stuff, not for the terrible stuff, because she really did cause so many problems. But we're gonna reindustrialize Britain. So she was wrong. God rest her soul, she was wrong. But Charles Darwin, Isaac Newton. So when the Vox Box guys go and do their thing, and you see that video of that grotesque woman saying, "What are we famous for? Fish and chips. We're nothing."
Shall I put it on now? Let me put it on now, and then
Not just fish and chips and a pint in a pub, right? That's not really culture. That is like more of a social thing, right? That you'd come to England.
What is British culture?
I actually don't think they have any compared to other countries. I think that, when you go to foreign countries, they have much more historical family values, etc. Whereas in England, the culture is just basically tea and biscuits, and they don't really value anything traditional at all, in my view.
But people may argue on the other side of the argument that Britain does have a culture. It has Premier League football. It has fish and chips. It has watching EastEnders. It goes going to the pub on a Sunday. Like, that's what people think, quote unquote, British culture is. How do you say?
Socialism, culture. I think culture is more to do with beliefs and more culture, more family traditions, things that have been brought down from generation to generation. Not just fish and chips and a pint in a pub, right? That's not really culture. That is like more of a social thing, right? That you'd come to England to get a pint in a pub, for example. But if you went to, say, I don't know, India, Africa, or anywhere, somewhere else, right? They've always got cultural, they've always got history. This country doesn't really have that so much.
Wow. I'm just... I feel your pain, Nick. I'm literally sat there just going, say what? So please, let's talk about the monarchy. Let's talk about the British stiff upper lip. Let's talk about our beautiful teas. Let's talk about Shakespeare. I mean, there's a whole lot of history here. Like, what are they talking about?
There's only one thing to say. That's a different video. That's not the video I meant. There's only one thing to say to that, and that's the port. She sounded very English. she said, born here. I don't care. You're going home, love. It is so, you know, there's that ethnic, what was she, Indian? There's that ethnic minority arrogance there. How dare she? So, for example, so going back to my prelim, that I did that for a reason. What is it all about, guys? Is it culinary? You know, we always talk about this stuff, food. So what is it? What is it to be a country? What is it to be a nation? What is it to be Russia? What is it your history? Is it to do with cuisine? Is it to do with your architecture? Is it to do with your religion? Is it to do with your justice system? The Industrial Revolution, British. The Iron Bridge, British. The Underground Railway System, British. The radar, British. The tank, British. Jet engines, British. The global time standard from Greenwich. Telephone is Scottish. There's a whole, let's talk about inventions and creations and all of these sorts of counterculture short form videos, pieces of content that circulate and tend to do very well online. The rejection of the bastardization of our history, the Industrial Revolution, the weather forecast, British. Let's talk about all the things we've invented. And we look at creation. Does that tell us who a nation is or what a nation is? And then we're into the realms of creativity. We're into the realms of inspiration. What did inspire and motivate the engineers, the architects, the designers, the creators, the authors, the Shakespeares, etc.? What did motivate these people? Was it Christianity? Was it, okay, so should we talk about the Enlightenment period? What about the philosophical revolution as well? What about the Industrial Revolution? Where did these thinkers come from? Where did these great minds come from? So I think it's a fascinating subject about what is a nation, or what is English culture. And I think that the cuisine stuff is pretty obvious to defend against. I think fish and chips is a great meal. I think the Sunday roast is a great meal. I think the
and the Yorkshire puddings. Don't forget the Yorkshire puddings.
I think this is just all so fantastic. I mean, what more do you want? Does it compare to Italian cuisine? I'm going to go out on a limb, guys, and hopefully not lose any support tonight. But guess what? You can't. You know, it kind of is what it is, there, guys. Yeah. But so what? The Greeks do it well as well, you know. So cuisine wise, we've got our own cuisine, but is that what makes England great? Is that what makes us who we are? No. And the woman said it's about values and beliefs. Whoa, we just wandered into religion. Guess what religion took over from the pagans? It was Christianity. That's what happened. So when we talk, again, going back to my earlier point about what is the problem, what Britain are we trying to save? It all comes back to the church. It all comes back to the commandments. It comes back to God. It comes back to the faith. We are trying to save Christianity. We're trying to save our morals, ethics, values, belief systems. Back to the woman's culture and how you define a country is about your belief system. You mentioned stiff upper lip. Winning wars, being gallant, being noble, fighting in the Crusades. I mean, I mentioned a lot about what we've invented and what we've created. I mentioned about some culinary stuff, you know, the history books, wars, etc. I don't think it's something that's answerable in just one soundbite. No. I think when people say, what is it to be British? It's proud and it's Christian. That's what it is to be British. What is it to be English? Our flag, the St. George's flag. And that's where I come in, guys, to tie up all the aforementioned. Why UKIP? My background. Why are we all here? Why are we doing this? The fight, the bravery, the armour of God, the shield of faith. Why are we fighting for England, fighting for Britain, whichever you want to call it? Our ideology as conservatives. What's really going on here? It is all to defend the Christian heritage, the Christian tradition, God's commandment, the church's tradition. All of it points back at religion. That's what England and Britain is, and that's what makes us great. It's Christianity.
Yeah. And I think on that as well, you can't call yourself truly British if you've not watched Only Fools and Horses. If you haven't watched that, then you're not British, right? So if you want a quick course on what it means to be British, just watch that. And on culinary, talking about that, I'm having a Chinese tonight, so I know that fits in with the conversation. Sorry, Nick. There's no Italians around here where I live at the moment, so I'd have to travel much further. And so, yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, you're right. It is about defending the faith.
Yeah.
And restoring the Christian message to the heart of our country, and all those principles we've covered. We've gone over them a few times now, but they're so important. And I think we've got a big fight in our hands. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of wickedness in high places. We know that. We know where that battle begins, and we know that it's not going to take just a change of government. It's going to take Christians all around the country, around the world, praying for a revival, praying that God will intervene in the affairs of man, and he would move the heart of the king, as he did I think it was in Ezekiel there. God can change people's hearts to the right place, and I think we need to see that. And I'm praying that one day we will see that happen, and then we will be a prosperous nation again, because those who submit to God, they prosper. Those who don't, they don't prosper. The evil do prosper, we know that, and it says not to be envious of them, but it's submission to God and his will and his way, and I'm sure we'll restore Britain to his greatness that it once was. I'm preaching
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And thanks be to God as well. It's been so great to speak to you guys. Let's do more of this, and I want to thank you for letting me answer questions. And again, it's not even my will. It's not my will. It's not my rules. This isn't my game. Everything points back at us getting on bended knee and saying to God, we got it wrong. We got it so very wrong. And it's our job, to your point, to evangelize our brothers and sisters. Going back to the previous, what is English? What is British? What do we have to be proud of? What is the problem? Well, the problem is godlessness. We all know it's the Islamic Caliphate and mass uncontrolled immigration, but ultimately it's godlessness. It's absent fathers, it's divorce, it's abortion, it's pornography, it's casual sex, it's boyfriend girlfriend culture, it's dating. How long have you been dating for? 4 years. Again, it's not judgment, guys. It's just, if I can learn excuse me, if I can learn and I can change and I can understand the mission, then anyone can. And it's our job to do that. It's our job to do. It's not enough that it ends there. We have to be absolutely bloodthirsty for justice and to evangelize our liberal secular brothers and sisters. But again, going back to those stats, apparently there's 46 million people registered to vote in the UK. I believe all's fair in love and war. I reckon 50%, that was in 2021. I reckon 50% of that. So let's just go with 23 million people are registered to vote. We have everything we need, guys. All we have to do is get on our knees and beg for God's forgiveness.
Absolutely. I have just followed you on X, and so I need you to let people know what is your handle and where people can find you.
Sure. Thank you, guys. So my name is Nick Tenconi. It's at Nick Tenconi. My middle name is Marcel, and I often put Marcel into my handle. So if it's not at Nick Tenconi, it's at Nick Marcel Tenconi. That is across all 5 of the 5 social media: YouTube, TikTok, Insta, Facebook, X. At Nick Tenconi.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight, and it's been a real eye-opener hearing your mission and actually understanding who you are. When I see you out and about, it's just like, okay, I'm trying to get a feel of it. And this, I hope, for our viewers and for anybody watching that is new to the channel tonight, we've actually had a real understanding of who you are. And I am absolutely, I'm impressed. Very, very impressed. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege having you on the show, mate. And hopefully we'll meet up very soon sometime when you're on one of your marches, one of your protests, or wherever you might be around the country. I'm sure myself and Rogue will make our way down to see you, mate. It'd be an honour to see you.
It would, absolutely.
I really
thank you so
appreciate
much.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for tonight.
Take care. We'll have you on again soon. Big love.
What
a guy. What a guy.
I mean, he's just, the way he articulates things, he's very academic, but at the same time, you can understand him. Being a Welshman, for me to understand an academic is difficult, but I understood everything he said.
Well done you. Give yourself a pat on the back.
I can't. I'm double jointed. But yeah, it was great having him on. And what we said, I think for me, which is important, is the fact that, putting country before party, irrespective of all these new parties, whether it's Ben and Beaver and Vance has folded, or whether it's Restore Britain, he understands what I personally have understood for months, even the last couple of years. And I've told people the same thing, and you get, vilified for it, because you've got to think, if you want to change a government, you're going to have to go with what's going to win. And at the moment, it's reform, irrespective of what. I don't care if people hate me for saying it, tough titty. I don't care, because that is the only way we're going to see Labour booted out of power. There's no other way. There's no other party. I don't care what they say on social media. I don't care how big their accounts are. I don't care if Elon Musk is backing them or Donald Trump. We have to go with what's in front of us. And right now, reform is the only way forward. Things may change, but it's very doubtful. That's my thoughts. But what a wonderful show. Episode 105 or something like that is.
105, yeah. And don't forget, it has to be about tactical voting, doesn't it? And it's just so important that we remember that. And also, it's important for the people that don't normally vote to vote, because we need to make that difference, and we can't live like we have been for the last 2 years under Keir, and then we don't know what's going to happen under Andy Burnham. And, when you are under that and you already know what his history is, it becomes a little bit concerning. So we have to make that stand in 2029, and we all have to vote and, make it worth it, don't we?
Absolutely.
Don't
forget,
Chris. I haven't forgotten.
No, just checking. Just what you got last time. We forgot to do it last time.
No, we did forget. Right. So look, the thing is, we've kind of hit a ceiling point. And how many days have we got left, Richie?
We've got until the 19th of July, so we're up against it. But we've done really well, and we're thankful for everybody's donated so far. We need to reach £1,500 to buy a mobility scooter for Chris. The video will explain in a few moments, but we've hit the ceiling, and we want to achieve this without kind of like, extending the timeline. We want to be able to say we've done it. So we need as many people as possible. You might not have much money, but the little that you've got will make a huge difference to Chris.
Yeah, I mean, we have over 2,000 people watching, and if we could actually have £1 from each of you, that would just help. It just gives us that kind of access to helping somebody else. And what we're trying to do is love thy neighbour. It is so important that we understand community, because we have lost that, and I think if we all understand that we can have somebody that we're going to look after, and we'll all put something in, we're putting it into a pot, we're putting it into a good cause. Now, Chris is a beautiful, beautiful man with Parkinson's. Like Richie said, the video is going to actually introduce that and show that. But underneath here is the crowdfunder, which is crowdfunder.co.uk/p/mobility scooter for Chris. And we just need to get this man, this beautiful man, freedom. He needs to be able to have that freedom, because he's lost his independence, and his wife actually is really struggling because she dislocated her shoulder. She had to have a surgery, big major surgery upon that. And so what we need to do is finalise this with Chris, get him that scooter. We can do a video to show him in the scooter, and then just show what we've all done. And we need to achieve that. So please, guys, if you can just help us, just £1, if each and every one of you can just put £1 in, that's absolutely brilliant. And thank you so much. But please, we're going to say goodbye, and we're going to say goodnight, and we're going to say thank you for joining us. And then the outro is going to be Chris's video. So please take a look at that. Hi, we're Richie and Rogue.
And we'd love you to get behind supporting this gentleman called Chris.
Take a look. When were you diagnosed, and how did you feel when you were diagnosed with Parkinson's?
A bit gutted, because my mum died of Parkinson's. So when I found out I had it, I was more worried about my wife. But it's affected, it was little things it affected at first, but then mainly me walking. So I didn't have any balance. It's affected a lot. My memory's a bit sketchy. I have to either walk with my wife. I don't go out on my own.
Yeah, of course. In fear of falling over, or, by the very fact that you can't.
Yeah. I'm either in my wheelchair, I have to use a walking stick to get from the wheelchair to the side of the stable. But it feels like I don't have any independence at all.
I am just with Chris's wife, Esther. How difficult is this to get out of the car?
It is very light. Getting out of the car is not the problem. The problem is pushing Chris around, because this chair is, in general speaking, very easy to put together. But when somebody sits on it, that's when it changes.
I mean, there's no assisted help with this. It's not
No.
electronic at all.
No.
You're having to push this all yourself.
Yes.
And like you said, there are lots of hills.
Yes.
The most important thing here, isn't it, Esther, is that Chris needs and wants his own independence.
Yeah, it will make me feel better, because I know that he gets what he needs. I just want him to have a little bit back of what he's losing.
How do you think then that this will help you? What will it do for you if we actually reach the target?
It'll give me a massive amount of freedom. I'll be able to go for a ride out on my own round the block and get some fresh air, instead of having to have Esther push me in a wheelchair, you know, and to be able to have that freedom that I can do it. Whereas at the moment, I just can't, I don't go anywhere.
Let's hope that we can get our viewers to support Chris and help Chris and our endeavours in trying to get him a mobility scooter.